Good evening and good morning to all the friends who have joined us today for learning more about how to sustain growth and preserving cash in a crisis. I introduced Shri Neeraj Jain. He's a well-known leader in finance and is professionally qualified as a chartered accountant as well as company secretary, and was a rank holder in both. He has got over 30 years of management experience in finance, supply chain, and business across diversified industries at Johnson & Johnson and Unilever in positions of increasing responsibilities in India, ASEAN, and Asia Pacific. He has spent his formative years in management consulting at A.F. Ferguson's. Neeraj Jain's key areas of expertise include strategic business partnering, process excellence, controllership, mergers and acquisition, business or reorganization, and talent development. In his last assignment, he was the Vice President Finance or CFO at Johnson & Johnson Medical in India. In the 13 years he was with J&J, he held various senior positions in Asia. Prior to J&J, he has held various positions of increasing responsibility for over 17 years at Hindustan Unilever, and the last one being General Manager Commercial Exports. At HUL, while growing up doing classical finance and supply chain roles, Neeraj worked on several M&A deals, including the Tomco transition in an early part of his career and divestment of seeds to a PE fund in the US, a business which he himself led. He also set up a joint venture between HUL and SC Johnson Incorporated, where he managed finance, IT, procurement, and HR. Later, he reorganized the exports business, where he was also the board member of Ponds Exports Limited. Since his retirement from J&J in January 2020, Neeraj has been involved in angel investing as part of Winners, a group of around 100 CXOs, which he had co-founded a few years back. He is also the founding director of the company that handles all administrative affairs of this group. Besides, Neeraj is an independent director and a member of or chair of audit committees and risk committees of Tata Trustee Company and Tata Pension. In addition, he is a board advisor in a healthcare company engaged in research, and he's been one of the most awarded CFO. As CFO, he was awarded one of the most 100 influential CFOs in India in 2016, and also recognized among the top 100 CFOs in 2015 by 9.9 Media. And he secured the People and Leadership, Operational Excellence and Compliance Awards by J&J Asia Pacific over several years. He's been a regular speaker at various forums and organized by organizations like Reciprocity, Transform Wave, CFO Engage, UBS Forum, Inventicon, and the like. Ludhiana Management Association, and also B schools like OP Jindal Business School and IMT Nagpur. Today he is joining us to share his knowledge and experience of how to sustaining growth and preserving cash in a crisis. Over to you, Neeraj.
Thank you, Arun. I'm very pleased to be with you today to discuss this topic close to my heart, which is sustaining growth and preserving cash in a classical crisis situation. Now, fact that we are a smaller group today, it'll be perfectly okay if you want to intercept me, ask a question, just either raise your hand or just speak. It's fine. I'm okay to be interrupted. Let's make it more conversational and more interactive than one way. In any case, we'll keep some time at the end for a freewheeling discussion and Q&A. Yeah. And thank you for all the detailed bio you read, literally a bio, Arun. So thanks for that. all of us on the call today, I think we've seen crisis in our business environment. We've seen various kinds of crisis, and we'll talk about that what kind of crisis can come in. But every crisis in a business situation has a finance angle to it, whether it's a business crisis or a non-business crisis, but ultimately it leads to some kind of cash crisis. And again, we'll discuss a little more in detail about these crises, but either it's about, money which is to be spent to handle a crisis, large sums of money, or large sums at risk because there's a business crisis, or profitability issues arising because there's a government-led situation, which for a particular company becomes a crisis. So, let's straight dive into it. And I like to start with not with a hard-coded, use cases, but a famous case which I would like to present to you. And I think I'm going to, encourage you to guess it, that what company I'm talking about. And this company went through a crisis. Yeah. So the year was 1982. Yeah. May ring a bell. 7 people died in Chicago after consuming a drug which was alleged or found laced with cyanide. By this time, in my other conversations, about 1 or 2 people had guessed it. In a small place, I spoke about this. So after this event happened, the company halted all advertising. It sent about 450,000 messages to stakeholders. There was a hotline established for consumers immediately, and it was established by the FDA that it was not company's fault. It was contamination at a store or at a warehouse. Yeah. Company decided to recall all products from the market, about 31 million units at a cost of $100 million. That's where the finance angle comes in. So $100 million to be written off straight away because of this business issue, which is happening. And imagine 1982, the value of 100 million was far higher than it is today. It'll be more like $500 million today, at least. So, yeah, it issued warnings to all its consumers on the media that do not consume this particular product. It actually led to introduction of tamper-proof packaging. This event, I'm still not disclosing what the event was, but this event prompted the industry to come up with tamper-proof packaging so that the infiltrations can be avoided. I'm sure some of you would have guessed it by now, but still, let's go ahead. In less than a year, this company regained its market share. Actually went beyond that because they were upfront about recalling the product without they being in a position of fault. The CEO and the company were praised by public and by the media, and it became one of the biggest studies in the B schools. Who are we talking about? So this is Tylenol, and J&J had this crisis in 1982. And we are often taught this in J&J and a lot of B schools, that this was a classical case where company was kind of shaken up in the beginning, but in 24 hours they recovered. And they decided to write off $100 million and decided to withdraw the product, I think, for a year or so, year and a half, before they came back. And when they came back, the trust was even higher because people felt, the consumers felt, that this company cares, and that was extremely helpful. Even today, Tylenol is a big product or drug in the market. So it survived like 4 decades after that, even 82 and 2023. Let's see some more cases. There have been worms in Cadbury chocolates in India. Arun would relate to this in 2003. And this was a crazy scenario where there were allegations that, when people opened chocolates, they found worms. Yeah, right or wrong, but they found worms. We had a case in Maggi, which is Nestle product in India, noodles, high concentration of MSG and lead. Now this is big, and it became a very damaging allegation for the company. And company actually did not handle it well in the beginning, but later on they came out of it like a winner. And Maggi is one of the best-selling brands of Nestle in India, and also outside now. There was a 1-week operational shutdown at JetBlue. This was years ago, and this was reasons of operations that there was a shutdown, and it was a crisis, because if you have a 1-week shutdown at an airlines company, it's a huge issue, right? We've heard about Samsung Galaxy 7 exploding, overheating and battery explosions, and that has led to all kind of controls at the airports today in the checked-in baggages, and the battery explosions first time happened in Samsung phones. And again, in India, government alleging 12 cold drink brands having pesticides. Coke was one of them, and it was a big issue which we all went through in Indian market. So all these cases, why I am calling out these cases? What happened? While there was a financial angle to it, but a strong PR campaign in all these cases actually helped. A bad PR campaign actually damaged, like in Nestle. And then there's a change of the guard, the CEO in India, somebody who understands the regulatory side and the market was brought in by the company, and a very strong PR campaign was required in almost all these cases to really bring the companies back. But it works. And again, finance guys, as a CFO, somebody comes to me saying, I need X million dollars for a PR campaign. I'm going to be saying, really? Why? I mean, isn't it too much? But point is, it's important for the finance guys in today's markets to understand the business side. What is happening? What is the issue? Why this problem is there? And how this can be solved. And we will talk various areas around the crisis. We'll talk about the reasons of crisis. We'll talk about how to solve a crisis, and we'll then dive into details in each of those crisis situations. Let's look at some of these interesting quotes which we have. And I love these couple of quotes I put together. John F. Kennedy said, the Chinese use 2 brush strokes to write the word crisis. One brush stroke stands for danger, the other for opportunity. And in a crisis, be aware of the danger, but recognize the opportunity. So, always there are 2 sides to the crisis. You can see it as a problem, you can see it as an opportunity. And it depends on the company, the people, and the managers, the organizers, the organization, and the leaders, that how do they see it. Another nice quote by Desmond Tutu: a time of crisis is not just a time of anxiety and worry. It gives a chance, an opportunity to choose well or to choose badly. So we can choose either way. We can actually make a big deal out of it and mishandle it, or we can actually start thinking strategically and make choices which are good for the company in long term. And my final one, which I really love, is in a crisis management situation, one needs to be quick with the facts, but slow with the blame. A lot of people start blaming, pass the buck, blame this leadership team, blame that person. That really is very unhelpful in a crisis situation. I think we need to be quick with the facts, but very slow with the blame. Even not blame anybody, but just handle the situation as we go along. People are going to make mistakes. They're going to take some bad decisions. But I think it's important to keep putting facts on the table. And let's kind of dwell more into it as we go along. Let's look at the types of crises they can come in our lives. Financial, we all know the financial crisis we've seen. We've seen the Southeast Asian markets in the 90s. We've seen in 2008-9 the crisis, which we all are very well aware of. And there are many, at a country level or at a smaller scale, company level crisis, financial crisis keep coming up, where you find the cash drying up or the funds not available, or many other situations which can be there. There can be market-led crisis. When I say market-led, which means market situations change, the new brands come in and you don't realize that, or new products come in, you don't realize that, and that leads to a crisis ultimately. This is a slow burn. This doesn't happen immediately, but companies tend to misread it or miss it. Technological, we're seeing more and more of it, actually speaking now. There are very good examples of technological crises which happen. Kodak is one good example where they did not see that cameras are going to be different in the new world, where technology is going to be playing a big role. Similarly, several other products have gone out of market and the companies have closed down because they missed the technological opportunity to innovate. And Apple phone is one big example where they've kind of made sure that a lot of other people go out of the market. Regulatory. I think this crisis is pretty interesting. We've seen regulatory crisis, companies' margins dropping 80% in one day because price control comes in on a particular range of products. It could be pharma market in a particular country. It could be medical devices. It could be a food product. It could be duty imposition in a particular country because they are fighting the internal demand, and they put high custom duties to protect the local and domestic industry. So regulatory crisis will happen suddenly one day, and everybody goes helter and skelter after that in the company, or all companies which are impacted. Natural causes. COVID is one big example where a lot of companies went down. A lot of companies saw an opportunity and made a big business out of it. So as an angel investor, I remember we invested in a startup which was a mid-morning snacks company. So we act like a Shark Tank, a group. And we took a call to invest in a particular company which had, X rupees sale per month in India. And COVID happened. And you know what? They saw an opportunity. And they scaled it up far faster than they had imagined, than they had thought, and they had planned. And they became 5x in 8 months. So they created an opportunity out of COVID because people went online shopping and they were buying only online at that time. And this company was only on e-commerce platform and not selling offline at that time. Now they do. So they deferred their offline launches and they remained online, and they strengthened online. Organizational, a CEO being blamed for something, CEO quitting, some top management quitting. We have a crisis today in one of the unicorn startups in India, Byju's. Some people can relate to it, coming in newspapers every day. The independent directors have quit. The auditors have quit today, Deloitte. They've also walked out because of certain issues in the company. And there is a clear crisis out there, which is very organizational, created by themselves. Yeah. So what are the signals which we need to pick up when the crisis happens? Let me give a break. Arun, am I being okay, audible, clear?
Yeah, you're very audible, Neeraj. You are very audible. Your pace is also, I think it's fine, except at some places you are very fast.
Okay, so let me slow down. Please do let me know and just kind of caution me, and I'll kind of slow down. Yeah. And if there are any questions till now, or we can continue.
There are no hands raised. Anybody wants to ask a question, kindly raise your hand. Otherwise, we will. Yeah, we move ahead. Okay. And I'll give more pauses as I go along. Yeah. So let's see the signals which we can pick up for a crisis. Yeah, a product failure, whether it's an allegation or an actual, is a big signal that a crisis is impending. It's going to come up very soon. If there's a continuous low or no demand which we don't recognize, and I'm talking about a consumer demand. So a lot of companies try and sell to the channel and then make up the numbers, but don't pick up the signals of low or no demand at the consumer offtake level or at the consumption level. I think they miss out here, and that leads to a crisis. Disruptive technological innovations, we talked about. For example, the phones, the cameras, we've seen quite a bit of this.
In the medical space, they're happening day in, day out. Robotic interventions in the medical, in the hospitals, in the healthcare space is a huge technological innovation. And if people don't realize that, they're going to be out of it. Chat GPT, that's the latest, absolutely the latest, right? It can actually lead to a whole lot of stuff, which we are not even right now imagining. A lot of jobs will, churn, is what the belief is. Continuous supply chain disruptions, which means, let's say, and I've seen this saying from experiences, I have only one plant because it's so good to make my stuff in China because it's so economical, and we have a problem in China, and supply chain disruptions start there. Or I decide that I will have plants concentrated only in the Western world, or maybe in Europe, and not outside because of scale economies, and suddenly I find the disruptions, and I'm not able to meet the demand in the market, and that continuous disruption will lead to a crisis. Yeah. Declining profitability, I think, comes closer to our hearts as finance people, that if the gross margins, net margins, EBITDA margins, if they are declining month on month, quarter on quarter, and we see year on year also, a declining profitability, there can be debates on why they're declining, and there can be justifications. My mix can change, my product range can change. For a pharma company, a very highly profitable drug can go out of patent. There could be many reasons. The fact is that if I don't have replacements for these high profitable profit margin products, and I kind of scale down my profitability, it can lead to a crisis. May not, but it can lead to a crisis. When the volumes start drying up and the profitability starts declining, there's a sure sign of crisis. Natural disasters can be, a signal to a crisis. A flood or a drought in a particular place will lead to a crisis. COVID is a crisis situation, clearly. Yeah. Out of cash. I think it's very familiar to all of us that some companies go out of cash and they don't really foresee that cash can run out. And that's a very, very clear signal of crisis, because this can mean that you can stop paying salaries, you can stop paying to your vendors, you can stop paying to your employees, and you'll stop business very soon. And then link it to non-availability of funds along with that you can't raise funds, you don't have any funds available to you from anywhere, and you're out of cash. Very, very sure sign of crisis. And we'll talk about how to deal with it a little later. Talent flight. A lot of people tend to miss this. Some bright youngster leaving the company, the CEO may just not even bother about it. 2 or 3, a group of smart young people leaving, I think there is a signal which company needs to pick up. Some high long-standing employees worked for 20 years and they want to leave. Even one person leaving, I think there need to be interviews, and there need to be exit interviews to check out what's happening. Talent flight is a very, very clear sign that something is going wrong. And if a youngster is coming in and leaving the company, and after working for a very short time, it can very well be because of culture, because of ethics issues in the company, because of integrity issues in the, they've seen somewhere being compromised and they don't want to talk about it. Or is it just an opportunity outside, or is it something wrong with the way we work? Is an area needs to be explored and found, or dug deeper when the talent flight happens. Otherwise, it'll lead to a crisis. Yeah. Let's look at what are the leadership behaviors we need to exhibit when these crises happen. How do we handle these crises? And what are the behaviors we need to show? Yeah. It's said, well known, that speed over precision. There's no need to get to accuracy. And we accountants love accuracy. We like to go to 100%. My boss in J&J used to tell me that you finance guys love to invest in the latest version of SAP to go from a 99% accuracy level to 99.2, and you feel great about it. And he would tell me that, listen, I need 92% accuracy level to take a decision. So speed is important many times over precision. In a crisis situation, we talked about in the previous slide, if that happens, and how do we bring speed? We need to define priorities, and the priorities need to be around liquidity. How do we get cash, preserve cash, employee care, that they don't start moving out? Because in a crisis, the smart guys will start leaving the company, and that's something we can't afford. Customers, they should not move to competition, and operations, we should not have supply chain disruptions. So how do we handle? So we need to prioritize these and then start looking at these, do a course correction every week, every minute as we go along, and make sure that the business continues, and continuity today versus a long-term success, I think is prioritized. Clearly, I need my business to remain alive today. That should be the priority, not a long-term success. So priorities change, in these situations. And there are trade-offs, something which is very urgent, critical. My cash is urgent for me today. So I may want to sell something at a discount. Important maybe to maintain profitability, but in this case today, it's not profitability, it's cash. So speed of getting cash is going to be extremely critical. So there'll be some trade-offs. So one side of my finance brain says, oh, you know what? Why do I allow this 20% discount to a particular sales guy for a big order? And the other side will tell me, the crisis management part, that I need money, and money in the bank is more important today. It's okay to make a 40% gross margin or 50% gross margin, not 70% on the particular deal. Yeah. The other important thing to bring in speed is to delegate decisions at the lowest level and define that who will take a decision. Otherwise, everybody will start moving around to take every decision, and that is not healthy. So it's important to really define who the decision makers in a company, and typically a war room has to be created with defining who does what and publish it, and obviously there will be a bias for action that, people need to act fast and move fast with less information, not a foolproof 100% information. Yeah. And as we said earlier, don't punish mistakes. Some mistakes will happen, but let's not do a blame game here. That's the first behavior we need to change, and it's not easy for finance people particularly, but it needs to be done. Number second, be bold. How can we be bold? Yeah, we need to make choices, what not to pursue. Maybe there's a particular channel, particular business model, particular business line where we don't need to pursue in a crisis situation. We need to make choices, become lean and do something, a part of it, not the whole. Ruthlessly prioritize clearly, and and again tell people that we are not going to be following this particular route. We'll be following only a narrow path. Again, to be aware that what happened and worked in the past actually will not work in a situation of crisis. So things will change, things will fall apart, and we need to keep pulling back and adjusting very, very fast, and come with new plans, rationales, and with less information. Again, I'm going to keep repeating that thing about less information. Again, important thing that the leadership team at across functional lines need to have a connect with the front line. They'll tell you what the market situation is, how the crisis is being felt in the market. They're the only people who will be close to what's happening on the ground. So a direct line, and also using influencers in the current world and think tanks, as we have always seen in the past, both together will be required in a situation like this. Using technology and social media, which is the current way of doing things, can help a lot in connecting with the larger group of stakeholders, employees as well as outside. Yeah. Third, how do we deliver and be reliable? And which means that we need to be seen to be reliable and keep making delivery of our promises. Yeah, which means that there needs to be accountability. So the culture has to be that I own, I take accountability as a leader at the higher levels, at the leadership level. Again, very simple dashboards, not complicated the way we like the finance guys again, but simple dashboards with priorities and only monitoring those, not other things. I don't want to monitor my XYZ items in this case, or my innovation here, or my new launches planned after 2 years, or my funnel which is available, or my talent which is going to be ready after 5 years. No, I want to monitor what is happening today and deliver for today. That is my change in priority. I want to share daily, weekly with people. My KPIs will change, my matrices will change, and they all become short-term success. Nothing for long-term in this situation. Yeah. This is a Harvard Business case study, 3 to 5 metrics every week, which means review 3 to 5 metrics, and they'll be different in the next week. So they'll change very fast. If it's a 6 to 8 week or 12 week war room created, every week there'll be different metrics. That's the kind of agility we need to have. And because of that, this is another thing which people miss out, is that you need to have a very high fitness level. Mental fitness is extremely important. So meditation comes in, exercise comes in for physical fitness, and diet comes in for both. Yeah. And finally, another behavior which is recommended is engage, over-engage. Yeah. Connecting with team members, to figure out what is happening again, to relate at a personal level, at the lowest level in the company, with all stakeholders, whether they're employees, whether they are outside the company, vendors, customers, government, competition. And again, if required, we need to shout for help because we can't do everything ourselves. And again, as I said, focusing on everyone across stakeholders. We discussed this. Sometimes we may have to change payment terms. Now, if I'm okay on cash point of view, I can win in the market. I can relax my payment terms. If customers are facing bigger crises, and I'm in a position of strength. A multinational company, a PNG or a company of a similar standing, let's say, has enough cash in the kitty, while their vendors are facing problems. Imagine the win they can have by relaxing payment terms. It goes against the concept of preserving cash here, but it's an opportunity which somebody can evaluate, saying, does it make sense for me to relax payment terms in some cases and grab a market, grab a sort of customers? In the pharma space or in the medical space, we generally say that, this hospital is not able to pay me, but patients need to be served and they'll pay me later, but I'm cash rich today. I have enough cash. Even in a crisis, let me relax terms for my particular customer. And that really helps. Some service offerings, even pro bono at times. And these are huge reputational points. Again, positive messaging is important as a team, as the leadership team together. Yeah. We all know that empathy and compassion in such situations always helps. So these are the leadership behaviors we need to show. And I'm now going to talk about actions. Having understood the signals, the kind of crisis, the signals for crisis, the behavior we need to show, what are the actions we can take in handling crisis? And we'll talk about on one slide overall actions and then dive deeper into each of those. Okay. We all know this, close to our heart. Address cash flow issues immediately. We remember that cash is always a king in such situations. Making different scenarios, which we kind of need to do more and more in such situations, and find out what works for us from a model point of view. Yeah. Discretionary spend should be parked for the time being in such situations. Absolutely goes without saying. It does not mean that don't spend on the regular important items, but some discretionary spends can definitely, a planned offsite for a team. It gives a wrong signal. Amount may not be high, but it gives a wrong signal. or advertising spend. It's not discretionary, but part of it can be postponed. Protecting all key people is critical, so engagement with them, and to identify first who are the core group of people we want to preserve. It doesn't mean only top leadership team. It also means people at a lower level. And improving regulatory engagement. Talk to the government, talk to the influencers, talk to the lobbyists, and talking to the people who can influence the government. I think it's an important point, because government can be very helpful if handled well and if the right messaging is given. Let's look at item by item. Yeah, all the 5 items will go deeper. Let's look at the cash. And here are some examples which, based on my experience and people like Arun in the industry here in India, and a lot of my friends in India, Asia, and world over, we've kind of picked up from experience. Deferring payments or renegotiating contracts is one example one can look at in case cash flow has to be addressed. And this can be in the area of lease rentals. And why I'm saying this is because people are willing, the vendors are willing to renegotiate in such situations. In COVID, people successfully renegotiated lease rentals, equipment rentals, service contracts. All that was done, and it's doable. Yeah. Loan repayment deferrals. I think banks are very, or NBFCs, non-banking financial companies, are willing to look at deferrals if we can present them the crisis situation, but also a way out. That if we do this, we'll win over the crisis. Yeah. Salary deferrals, that's the last thing, but if needed, there are employees, I would say pick up, the top employees than the company at large. We should never touch the people who are low wage workers or the staff. It's important to differentiate between the directors, the vice president, and the rest. And the salary deferrals, I don't have salary cuts. That's a bad messaging. I call it salary deferral because we must pay them back when the time comes in. So call it a deferral, can happen. CapEx has to be parked. We discussed it. Capacities must be relooked at. And we should not be spending more CapEx money at this stage. Disposing of non-operational assets. So I got assets sitting in various places. My non-productive assets. I own 100 residential buildings or houses or apartments. And I'm talking from experience. Unilever used to own about 150 apartments in Mumbai alone, because they would like to give it to the managers when they hire them to attract talent. Now, in a situation of crisis, we don't need that. That's not going to add to my manufacturing capacity or my R&D capability. So I can live without those, and I can rent those apartments, same apartments or similar apartments. So we call them non-operational assets. So good to have, but not required at this current time. Inventory levels, optimizing them. And one way to do it is that identification of all the idle inventory, which we may have been holding on to because we're not getting the right price. But at a discount, if I can sell that today, I need to get rid of that and get cash in. Channel financing, bill discounting. So a lot of supply chain financing is available. We don't go for it because either it's expensive or we don't need it. So I think in a situation of crisis, cash crisis, we must have these limits available, and we should actually set up these limits in advance. We may not use the limits, but we should set up these limits and use it when the crisis comes in. Extending cash discounts to customers, to receive early payments from the customers who have cash, they'll pay us. And it's nice and okay to give cash discounts in that limited time period, in such situations. Aggressively chasing old receivables. We always have some old ARs in our books, and chasing them, even settling them in a situation of crisis is okay. We may not get 100%, we may get 80%, but it may be right decision to at that time to really take 80% and write off 20%. Yeah. Invoicing more frequently, in a turnkey project, in a construction project, we get money only after we invoice. Now, can we invoice more frequently? Instead of month end, can I invoice every week, every alternate day? because people are going to count the number of days from the time they receive the invoice. It is an opportunity to accept deposits on order. I can lower my rate, but if you give me advance or a deposit when I'm accepting an order. Yeah. Another idea is skip or reduce dividend. Now, not a good idea if your shareholders are a lot of pension funds and a lot of retired people depend on it. But looking at your shareholder mix, and if it's a private company, definitely one can do it to skip or reduce dividend, at least for that year. And then raise fresh capital if required, and if one can do it. And though expensive, I think covering almost all open position in Forex is a good idea, because the currency can really play havoc in the situation. If you are export or import heavy, this can be I've seen companies go down and wipe out completely, go bankrupt because of the last point I'm talking on the slide. We had a company in down south which was selling seafood, and they were like the leader in the industry, and they went belly over just because they had open positions. This was 20 years ago. Yeah. Models. What can we do with the models? Move to value selling versus price. Don't reduce the price, but give more value, give more services. Yeah. After sale service, for example, AMCs along with the product. So I can give a free AMC, not 1 year, but 2 years. And I'll get customers based on that or consumers based on that, than cutting a price. Alternate channels. So e-commerce is of course a great example, but also going direct, and sometimes even consignment. If I'm cash rich, I can actually consign my goods and put my goods and increase my inventory. That's the opposite of working capital reduction. I'm saying if I'm cash rich and others are not cash rich, it's an opportunity to do business, and consignment becomes handy. Higher capacity utilization. So maybe consolidating my plants, and instead of 60% capacity utilization at 5 plants, I may do 80 or 90% in 3 plants. Collaborating with competition, again, from a capacity point of view, I may even lease a facility from competition. And it's happened, by the way. Competing companies have come together in the area of fast-moving consumer goods, food processing, cement. The competing companies have come together to make sure that the capacity is fully utilized. Yeah. Evaluating outsourcing. I mean, that's something we all know, but I think it becomes more relevant when the models are being looked at and in a particular crisis situation. Again, looking at need or relooking at need for office, warehouse. So after the pandemic, a lot of companies have not gone back full to offices. They're still working half remote, half office. They've reduced office space, and warehouses, they've kind of done full consolidation and not having many warehouses because that was comforting, but have less warehouses. So all that actually adds up to the model change and hence cash. Clearly, postpone all new launches because that's a lot of money. A on launch and B on post-launch marketing activity. We can kind of hold it till the crisis is there, and then move to social media from a conventional media, which is cheaper, seen to be cheaper, and start evaluating what is working for me, what is working for other people, and actually social media. I've been challenged on this slide because even in non-crisis situation, this is becoming very relevant for us. One innovation I've seen of late, companies have started, working with the startup ecosystem to innovate. And startups are saying, guys, you're delivering quarter on quarter. You're stressed out delivering quarter on quarter, right? Outsource innovation to us, to the startups, because they are bringing in new technologies, new products, new services. And as we will get you, at a very low cost, the innovative ideas and products. So can we work in that kind of a model? And of course, digital maximizing use of that. Let's look at the other areas where we can take some actions, which are more consumer facing as well as non-consumer facing. So all. cutting non-customer facing spends, about rationalizing all the spends. So never cut a customer facing spend, never. So all the internal backend spends can be rationalized. Can we question internal spending on meetings and travels and entertainment? Also from messaging point of view, it's important. And relooking at our own office space, we talked about it in the earlier slide. Renegotiating contracts, we again discussed it in the past. Important thing, can we give equity to employees in lieu of bonus? Bonus means giving cash. Will employees accept equity? If I'm giving, let's say, a 500,000 rupees worth of bonus, can I give a 600,000 rupees worth of equity? Now, that means not giving cash away. I'm giving very small part of a fractional part of my ownership, but it's like employees getting that, and which means that control literally remains within the company. Cutting down dividend, as I talked about earlier, in some cases, and then plug all loopholes. There are a lot of loopholes we leave and we say, yeah, we'll figure it out later. The yields are dropping in manufacturing, or some tax credits are not fully encashed. Can I really? Now, in a situation of crisis, we have to plug these loopholes. And I said earlier, relooking at advertising cost as a last resort. I mean, this will hurt us in the medium term to long term. The brand will get hurt, but if we have no other way out, and than company liquidating or closing down or getting into an insolvency situation, better to kind of cut these costs. What can we do to protect talent? Let's identify who are my top people at all levels. How do we, let's go all out to protect them. Stay bonuses, retention bonuses, ESOPs. There are various ways to do it. Yeah. But I think there are also non-financial ways to do it. Sharing information with them. Make them feel important. Sharing business and personal long-term growth plans with them. A lot of times people leave and you tell them, why are you leaving? You were going to become a senior manager tomorrow, or a controller, or a director. And the guy says, oh, you know what? I never knew. No one told me. So people don't share the long-term growth plans. And they don't have to be specific. They can still be that, in next 1 year, you have a potential to become, and we're working on your path. I mean, that's a very comforting message to a top employee. Yeah. Business plan, whatever can be shared must be shared. Their development, people really love development, and committing to X number of days per employee on development, I think, is important, which also shows the company cares. Breaking hierarchies, reaching out to people, over communicating, showing flexibility, allowing work from home when possible, which we all do. And I think focus on output versus input. Focusing on output, not that you must come 6 days a week, but what is the output you're giving? I've had one of the controllers working for me who took vacation first time from me, and she was my ledger person, main person. My final accounts closing, year end, and she said, I want to go to Russia with my family on a vacation. And I almost collapsed first time. So why, how will we do the closing? She said, I'll do it wherever I am, doesn't matter. You'll not even hear about it. And I took a punt. I said, yeah, okay, fine. Let's kind of do it. You go ahead. I didn't get a single call, not a one call. And everything worked as smooth. And she was in St. Petersburg or in Moscow, wherever she was. But the work happened. So output becomes more important than input. I think that's where we are moving. And that also shows trust and faith in employees. Yeah. Talked about equity and options. Again, how do you make the office space a fun place? And how do you increase diversity? All these are important areas where they can lead to lower attrition. My last slide on regulatory side, we tend to miss it. We tend to focus on finance, marketing, supply chain, people. We tend to miss regulatory side. But it is so important. Just one day and it can just kill it. I mean, in India, we saw price control coming in on the stents and on knee implants. Suddenly one day, and the companies which were doing knee implants went down in profitability by 80%. Their realization became 0.2 from 1 straight. And they had to completely change business models. And they were not allowed to leave the market. So I think people, the industry bodies, then went to the regulators and engaged with them and stopped them from coming with more regulations on price control, but damage had been done, at least for knee implants and stents, and that could not be reversed. But lobbying is, I think, becomes very, very critical, important, and working with associations, industry bodies, and using media when required, putting point of view in the media, I think it's important. And again, with the government, sometimes it's okay to accept a mistake and just move on than keep fighting with the government. Government does not like when industry fights with them. And settlement options will be available. And I think we should avail those. And again, some companies have found this way of using multiple brands and multiple legal entities so that they don't get impacted in every legal entity, in every brand. If a government action comes in, it's more expensive, but it's worked for some. I wouldn't say this is a foolproof method, but it's worked for some. So to sum up, I think there's a quote I like to leave you with, saying that any deep crisis is an opportunity to make your life extraordinary in some way. Otherwise, the life is going to be boring and routine, and we'll keep meeting our objectives, keep meeting our targets day in, day out, keep meeting our numbers, and we'll be happy at the end of the year. But we would not have achieved something extraordinary. This is an opportunity where the achievements can come in and a life can become extraordinary. Yeah, with that, I'm going to close at least, and I'm going to hear from you guys. Does it make sense? Is something which you all relate to, or if you have any questions. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Neeraj. Fantastic. While I wait for others to respond and for the questions, I have a question on the slide wherein you mentioned about the signals.
Yeah.
In our current risk management framework, do you believe that we need to incorporate mechanisms or procedures that will throw out such signals in advance? Because my understanding is broadly that crises erupt very suddenly.
Yeah.
And then is it possible for somebody to watch over it and then see it evolve to, kind of counteract? I would like you to throw a light on this.
No, certainly. So a risk management framework actually needs to acknowledge and account for almost all of these. It is important that we, in the framework, actually provide for failures of all kinds in a situation whether crisis or no crisis. Crisis obviously even more important. So what is your plan B? What is your, how do you spend all the cash, or do you preserve cash? Is my payout 90% every year, my payout ratio of the profit? Am I giving all my pat to the shareholders, or am I kind of holding back? Is my profitability declining, quarter on quarter? There could be justifications. The point is that a stage will come, I won't have enough left. Yeah. How am I managing my plants? All this will come in your risk management framework, actually speaking. Where we may find a bit of difficulty is the natural disasters in the risk management framework. I'm sure there would be ways out to find what is my reserve in case of a disaster. How long can I last? We saw the current Titanic submersible, they had 5 days of reserve, right? Just 5 days of reserve, and they ran out of it ultimately. But what is my reserve in this case? And because disruptive things will happen, whether led by government, led by natural disasters, led by something. So a risk framework will need to take cognizance of this and provide for a plan B. Plan B in every area, in all of these, actually speaking. Also, actions being taken by the management in case signals are being picked up.
Okay, that sounds perfect.
Yeah.
While again going back to the signals part of it, we need to take action in advance basis variances over our set parameters, I should say. So I mean, again, I'm repeating. So crisis is a word that signifies something very sudden, sudden, unmanageable, unforeseen. So for that, the experience teaches us that the primary requirement would be to have the cash set aside as a contingency.
Yeah.
That is a key thing that we require, irrespective of the type of crisis that may emerge.
Yeah.
Uh, so that will help us to deal with the crisis.
Yeah.
That is a good
Absolutely.
lesson.
Absolutely. And you want to put a number to it. I've seen good companies not giving away more than 50% of PAT.
Okay. Okay.
They plow back 50% to
Okay.
reserves.
Okay.
While I will not name the companies, but there are companies in India, listed large companies,
Right.
which are compelled to give much higher dividend as a payout, which means that they are not preserving cash and can lead to a situation of crisis because it sounds nice, or the parent company has a compelling reason, a loan or something else is happening. Yeah.
I invite questions from our guests.
So, Neeraj, you talked a lot about the regulatory aspect of it and managing it and being aware of it. In the US environment, of course, a very well-known way of dealing with that is lobbying. So could you shed some light on how that works in India? I don't know if India allows lobbying now just the way the US does, or is it something done a little more behind the scenes kind of approach?
So India does not work with the way US lobbying works. It does not allow that kind of lobbying. So there are no lobby specialists or firms we have in the Western markets. But what India does is India has industry bodies, and industry bodies representatives often meet the senior government officials at a highest level. Secretary level people are available to meet. And when you go as a body, you go as a company, they will not listen to you. When you go as an industry body, they acknowledge you, they listen to you, and they attend to you. You go and present a paper, present an industry issue, and that gets picked up by the government pretty well. And India, it works really well. It will not work if it's a company-specific issue. That's less chance of that working. But if it is a industry issue, and I'm giving you a good example of the price control on medical devices, where after the stents and knee price control came in, industry body rushed to the government, and through the body, they approached and explained to the government, it's a bad idea what you've done, because you will stop getting innovation in the country completely. And companies are going to go out of business if you do this. And India is not self-reliant in these areas. They don't produce high quality implants in India. If you can't afford to bring in price control. A Japanese market cannot sell the same product at 20 times than the same thing being sold in India at 1/20. It doesn't make sense. And government do it. And they stopped that. And they gave assurance that we will not bring in any price control after this on medical devices. And they did not. So it actually worked. And similarly, in consumer goods, in Unilever, now Unilever HUL in India is the leader. They have 40% market share, literally speaking. So they represent a lot of bodies. They are in the bodies, industry bodies, and they talk to the government with a lot of ground level realities and experiences. And this was to do with whether input duties to be reduced because you're import dependent, or to do with a certain area where you want to become export friendly, and government needs to kind of remove the barriers. So there are these kind of efforts which through industry bodies it can be done, but difficult to do through a law firm or a lobby firm. But it's not seen favorably either by the government or even by the companies because of the corruption we have, which is pretty high in India, and that's not the right thing to do, because people are going to be seeing you as someone trying to bribe the government. That's not what we want to do.
Thank you.
Neeraj, there is a question from Anna. She would like to know whether we can, if we pay enough attention to the signals arising from the systems what we are implemented, can the crisis be averted before it's too late?
Chances of averting are high. I wouldn't say it can be fully averted. You must still get into a crisis, but chances will go down. Let's take example of declining profitability. My profitability is declining. As Arun said, risk framework is picking it up and you're throwing numbers. Quarter on quarter, I'm seeing my profitability to go down. My product mix is changing. My high profitable products are not selling as much as my low profitable products. And my volumes are also going down now or not improving dramatically. It happens like for multiple quarters. One quarter I can understand. It's fine. Mix can change. Second quarter, some alarms that, why second quarter? Third quarter, clearly a signal. And full year, if you have same trend continuing, definitely it needs, intervention. It needs a complete team to look into it. So as a CFO, I will raise in the board every time, every quarter, every now and then I meet that this is a signal coming up. Let's be aware of it. Right now a signal, but slowly becoming a situation where we need to take action and start asking for a plan that how will you improve? One is there can be a plan. Second is that there's no plan, that this is the way market is going to behave, that I will go down in my profitability. Then I need to take actions of different nature. We talked on the other slides. Then I need to cut expenses. I need to rationalize spends. I need to rationalize manufacturing facility, capacity utilization. But if you can't, the demand is not going to be there for my better margin products, I'm in a more difficult situation. A lot of people relate to it from the pharma side, patent expiring, patented product is 80% margin and non-patent is 30% margin. If I don't have a pipeline in the R&D, a not adequate pipeline, I can see a disaster coming in and the profitability will decline like this. But if I have 5 products in the pipeline, which are at the last stage, clinical trials, phase 3, which means that out of 5, even if 1 makes it, I'm done. I can be a little more optimistic there. So it depends on situation where you are. I hope I answered.
I hope, I think she has got her answer. And there's another question from John. How important is enterprise-wide risk assessment in preparation for a crisis?
Oh, so risk. This is an important question because risk management is seen to be a finance guy's baby, unfortunately, even today. And risk is not financial risk alone. Impact is on finance, but risk can be business risk, as we discussed earlier, or can be a technology risk or a market risk or a regulatory risk. So risk framework enterprise-wide, I think, is extremely critical. I would say the board has to own it. A good company actually creates enough room for the board and the CEO to start owning the risk framework. It may be done by the finance guy, but the ownership has to be board. And that's why it'll happen enterprise-wide. If it is only run by finance, other guys are just there for the sake of being there, it won't get done. So, and then it has to go at board -1. The sales leader, the marketing leader, or brand managers, they need to understand this. They need to, feel for it. A supply chain director needs to understand company-wide risk. Not only supply chain risk, but a company-wide enterprise risk. So again, the job may be of the finance person to take it to larger group of people, to socialize it with the larger group of people, but it has to be owned by broader set of people.
Neeraj, in relation to your reply now and your listing of detailed solutions for various occasions to raise cash and as well as the various other aspects, including behavioral. Do you believe that it's a CFO's responsibility to present a crisis plan or what are kind of things that have to be done and then get it adopted at the board level in advance so that, whatever may be the crisis, we treat or we pick many out of these your valuable insights, what you have provided, similar to that, and what may be applicable for that industry, and probably build upon. Do you believe that it is a prerequisite today that we need to have such a framework as a responsibility under CFO's role?
Arun, would you want to bring in another thing at the board or another adoption at the board if you already have a risk management enterprise-wide, what earlier John talked about? If you have that framework available, risk management framework, that should actually be sufficient, and your crisis should be part of that, the crisis management. Why create one more? I'm saying make risk management situations and solutions as part of risk. Yeah, as part of risk management framework itself.
So you detail those solutions and then get that in place.
Exactly.
As part of enterprise-wide risk management.
Exactly.
Not as a separate.
If you bring in a separate thing, people are going to say, oh, one more. How do I handle so many? So, but I think if we expand the risk management framework and make this part of the risk management framework, it'll work.
Rather, it is mandatory for us to have the solutions also as part of the risk management framework, so that at the first instance of a similar or kind of planned trouble or such a crisis, we just try to roll it out as we had originally planned. Is that
right? Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Any other?
Yeah, and there's a question again from John. How do you get the CFO or board to support risk assessments? That's a primary activity.
Not easy. It's a boring activity, but I think I would first go to the CEO. Once the CEO blesses it, board and the people in the board start listening to it. If CEO is not with you, if CEO also sees it as a boring thing to be done and it's something which is so difficult to be done, and tell the CFO, you do it. No, I've forced my managing director on the board to first go through it with me, adopt it, and then when I present it, he starts the presentation, not me. He does the opening, not me. And when he does the opening, the ownership is far higher. So I think the ownership by the CEO is critical. It is not a CFO's job alone, the whole risk assessment or the crisis management thing. It is CEO's job, which is supported by the CFO in this case, and it should come from the CEO. So pre-selling to the CEO is important before going to the board. And then, of course, use the risk committees in the board. Risk committees are very helpful in these situations, because they're personally accountable. Risk committee members, which are part of the board appointed risk committee, they are accountable for this.
Any other questions, please? I think
okay.
We are good. Thank you, Neeraj, for taking time off for meeting all our members today, despite your busy schedule. I really appreciate it. And your sharing of your insights is very revealing, I should say. And you have detailed it in a fashion so comprehensively. I believe most of us have gained an idea as to what should be done when we come across a crisis of the nature. And you also described the various nature of crises that were likely to happen in a very comprehensive manner. Thank you for that on behalf of FENG India chapter. We'd love to have you again for another session at a later date on a connected topic to a CFO. I place my request today for that. I hope you will consider that favorably and
happy to engage.
Join us again at a later date.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, thank you. Appreciate listening to this subject, and I enjoy it as much as others enjoy listening. I enjoy being part of this group and speaking to you today. Thank you very much.
And
Much
thank you all co-chairs, past co-chairs of the FENG chapters across the world. It is a privilege for me to have you today here with us. I look forward to your continued participation in our next forthcoming webinars also. The next one is in July, I think, second week of July, I think 14th of July. Kindly participate for that also. It's on IND-AS, particularly on the effective implementation of IND-AS for the recent changes. Thank you.